2.5 years ago.
No, they weren't. Well, they're not in the way they are now.
Yeah, like now it's like that's something that's exploded, that's huge. All the late night shows now have like YouTube channels. You know what I mean? So it's definitely exploded in the past few years. And to think like
we sit down and eat dinner and we're just put on YouTube. It's just weird. Like
yeah, we have a Chromecast, so we just like are watching YouTube during dinner.
I never even
it feels like
think to watch
TV because it's on a TV, but like it's not TV.
Yeah.
I guess like that evolution is like good. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because it requires that like the barrier to entry is higher now for like what YouTube was of like people just being able to put on their webcam or whatever is changing. Like you do need to have like some level of I don't want to say budget, but the way a film, like the way your vlogs look or the way you're talking to the camera, like there is like a standard of quality now, which is cool in one sense, but like I wonder how it affects like the kind of authentic stuff that might have been put on 2 years ago.
Yeah. Could you walk me through the process of making a video from when you first have an idea to pressing publish on the video?
So we're in the beginning stages of one for our new one, so it's like fresh and that. So we have a large bank of ideas, thankfully, from a lot of people who either friends or family who whenever we see them are like, oh, you should do a video about this. Or people who comment on Twitter and YouTube, and that's so helpful for us. So we sort of have a large bank of that. Plus we read a lot of like magazines like the New Yorker and Science and Scientific American that also help us sort of like stay up to date with what's new and what's relevant. And then we sort of think, okay, this is the idea. And then we start the research process, which is the process that we're in right now with 2 scripts, which is really tough. It's a long, sort of tedious process of trying to figure out what information people want to hear. If it's really concise, like very detailed science, how do we break it down? What do people actually need to know? How are we not going to lose people? It's a constant struggle, reading each other's scripts back and forth. And then from that point, we have the final script, and it's usually Mitch is the last person because he has to say it. And then we split up and we sort of storyboard out how we're going to draw the whole thing. Then we come together and we talk it through with our 2 ideas, which is a really good idea, because we kind of get 2 perspectives, and sometimes you're kind of like, oh, I don't really know what to do for this. Yeah, and it's like really good, and that part is actually quite fun. And then I start drawing it, and then Mitch edits it.
I record audio, put it together, music already exists, and then
we put it on. So from that description, it's like the research is the hardest part.
I think finding the interesting angle is usually like the hardest part. Like, and we use this as in examples in talks and stuff, but like trying to find, like we've done an episode like on vitamin D, but just calling it like the science of vitamin D, we knew wasn't necessarily like an interesting way to appeal to people. And so even literally just like, what is the title of this video and how do we have that interesting angle where the content isn't going to change, but like what's the angle? And so that one became like, what would happen if you stopped going outside? Which is a much more interesting question to like many more people who don't really care about science but are interested in like that phenomenon. Like if I spend all my day inside, like what's happening to me?
And when it clicks and it's so great.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we have this topic and we're like, we really want to do something on this, but we just can't find a way. Like our mission really is like, how do we make science accessible to a lot of people? We're obviously not diving into like really deep science because we want to be, accessible by people of all ages and of all levels of science. And there are some amazing channels on YouTube that really do dive into like deep physics or whatever. And they're there for that reason. I think for even more people who are like super into science already. And so for us, it's like, how do we make this question like how do we reach into people's lives and they can say like I've experienced that and now I need to know the answer because you mentioned that experience I had. But yeah, afterwards then what do we do?
Then we press upload.
Yeah, then we just push upload and you think of clever ways to like tweet it or promote it or whatever, and that's basically the end of it. We like look at it for a day or two and then we're like, okay, it's time to do the next one. You get obsessed, you're like, oh my gosh, like what is happening with this video? And then you kind of forget, like after 2 days you never look at it again.
And all the information's gone.
And then you're like, oh. Yeah.
So why is ASAP Science drawn?
In the beginning, I mean, we sort of reflected on that a lot more to figure out